This week's episode was brought to you by Carly, Lucas Perez, and Andrew Valchuzio. If you enjoy listening to The Whole Rabbit and would like to hear our extended shows, get our stickers, hang out in our Discord server, and shoot lasers with us, please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where $5 will get you all of that stuff. But our biggest supporters get tarot readings and embroidered iron-on patches for our super duper secret army of rabbits. I don't know. I didn't think this through. Anyway, this is the much anticipated, much requested episode where we talk about how to get started on your magic path and general advice for beginners. If this is of interest to you, then, well, thank you and enjoy the show.
Hear me out. We're just going to cut off just a little.
Just a tiny bit. That's basically what happened.
Yeah, I remember this whole safety pin thing in high school. One of my best friends was like, I want to pierce my nipples. So so we're in my bathroom in the middle of the night, and I've got like one boob in hand, and I'm like ready, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay. And I stop and I look up, I'm like, now, I'm going to be able to do this one amazing. I can tell. But you have two nipples, and I just don't know if I can get both of them on the same, plane. So I just want to say that before we get started. She's like, you know what? You're right. Maybe I'll wait. I'm like, I'm good. I'm glad this is how we're going with this. So we didn't do it.
You need a flat surface and then
No.
Jesse the gunslinger kid to be the nipple piercing.
Just stand behind her and I'll with them.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Whole Rabbit, where we don't just tell you all the same introductory material as everybody else. No, we tell you the introductory material, but with spices from cryogenically preserved mummies that were teleported to our research development labs from Mars and have an uncanny odor of garlic, but also rosemary. So please, if you're one of the many listeners who requested information on where to start with magic, how to begin your path, and general stuff for beginners, pop your corn, because tonight I'm joined by the Queen Canine herself, Mari-sama.
Awoo.
And Gossamer Lights, the cryptic queen of psychedelic cephalopods.
Oh, I like that. I would make wet squishy noises, but I don't think I'm capable yet.
It's kind of hot.
Yeah.
Okay, so like we said a moment ago, this is for all the baby squishes that want to learn how to do magic. And it's kind of a big area. And in this big area of magic, like a dense forest of infinity, you sort of have to find your own place along the circumference to go in. But I'd say there's maybe 11 things I would tell a beginner, and they have some things we could elaborate on. The first thing I would say is keep a magic journal. This is important because you can keep track of the things that you've been through and the things that happened to you, because when you go back and look at it all in a row and you can see what you were thinking about and what was most important to you at a certain time, shows kind of where you are in your development and what you have to work with now versus what you had to work with then, how far you've come, and things you can change to be different. Basically, it allows you to have more intelligence.
Or bolster your intelligence by, it's kind of a crutch for your memory because, human memories aren't the best.
Exactly. So Robert Anton Wilson calls it the time binding function. So you have this point in time, you're writing down, I'm really upset about this. That's usually what I'm writing about. And then later you can be like, wow, I was really upset about that. That's kind of stupid. And then you can be like, so next time I'm upset about some stupid shit, I'm going to try to be not a dick about it. That's usually how it goes for me anyway, in my journal.
Well, I guess it's like a trail of breadcrumbs so you can figure out where the heck you are. And it's to keep you from becoming disoriented, because you can get into a lot of trouble doing that.
Yeah, I think all of my journal stuff is mostly quotes that were relevant at the time that make sense to me in a coded way. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
So let's be honest.
Usually
I'm really, really terrible at keeping a journal.
Same. I've never been successful at that.
I am inconsistent.
That's why I have a podcast, sort of, kind of, is it allows me to keep, okay, well, I had my mystical experience on May 9th, and then it was while researching this podcast, I learned that was the feast day of St. Christopher, and then it was stuff makes sense. And if I hadn't recorded when that time was, which would have been easy to do if I hadn't recorded it or written it down in some way, or committed it to memory in a very absolute way, then I wouldn't have been served by that information. And that was information that helped validate what I went through at a time when I needed that to be validated and when I needed to put things together. And so you kind of upgrade your intelligence and your ability just by recording what you're doing and what you're going through. And then in the Hermetic tradition, you write down your stuff because it allows the people that come after you to learn from what you learned and not repeat the same mistakes. Or if they do repeat the same mistakes, that there is a record to show some regularity or irregularity or whatever. It's a scientific process, and there's lots of record keeping in science. You gotta write everything down, you know?
The more everybody does that, though, the more we have a full picture or a full map of the possibilities.
Yeah, I was going to say, I like how sciencey it is, the note keeping. It makes me think of some like Middle Eastern cultures that first started stargazing. They kept meticulous records of where the stars were at night. And then, like, I think the Greeks or Romans were able to use that data to predict an eclipse or something. And that's because they had such long records. They're like, hey, look, that happened here. And then, like, this regular amount of time later. So that would mean it should happen again here. And they're like, ho, we figured it out.
I sit down on this rock, I smoke this pipe, and that same star seems to come up over that rock. But then it is like a little different. You know what I mean? And you keep track of stuff like that way. And then you're like, oh, what if I put some rocks right here? And it's kind of like the aiming sights of a gun. Or, wow, I said that terribly. You get what I'm trying to say.
I just remember thinking that I thought it was really neat that in some culture, at any point, it was someone's job just to go outside and just watch the stars move across the sky at night. They're like, oh, another long night? And he's like, yep, all right, your shift now. I'm like,
oh, that's cute.
Mm-hmm.
And so they wrote it down, or they built monuments to keep track of stuff. As a magician, keeping track of stuff helps. In my journal practice, having it be a bit more complicated helps me. I know it sounds ridiculous. But if you're like, Luke, just keep a journal every day. I'm like, yeah, okay, buddy. But if you are like, okay, Luke, here's what you have to do. This is what I do. You write the date, the time, and then sort of like what the zodiac's doing. So you say the sun is in Scorpio, the moon is in Taurus. That's what it was just a little bit ago. It's good to have some reminders if you're a student of what you did that day, because, you know, then you get to figure out exactly how much you're practicing and how much you're not practicing. So you write down what you're studying. You should write down how you feel, and you need to record the workings that you're doing. And then later, if you feel like something happened from your working, usually you get a feeling. You're like, oh, that's because I did that. You know, you get a feeling. You write that down too. Okay. This one's kind of important. Any dreams you have, and I am the worst. I am the worst at this. It is so hard. Get the willpower. I'm in my dream state. And be like, put it down on a piece of paper. But you can like leave it open, you know? Leave your journal open. It's even
by your bedside.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can write down dreams is if I wake up and I can immediately write it down, because I'll lose it.
You will fucking lose it.
So do either of you regularly remember your dreams, or it's like, I need to write it down or they're gone?
I have dreamscapes. Like, I'll go back to certain places. I have this whole, I remember a lot, and I have this whole world where I'll revisit areas.
I have a few places
crazy
like that.
But I'm a very visual person, so it's easy for me to remember stuff like that.
I remember as a kid, I had this recurring dream. And at one point, I didn't have the dream for like 5 years. And then it was like real time had passed there. They're like, so here's all the renovations we've made in the past 5 years. I'm like, oh my God, you guys put in a sidewalk. That's so crazy.
Also, I have a fun fact for the kiddos. If you're trying to remember your dreams the next day, or if you're trying to learn lucid dreaming or remember them, alcohol is a no-no. So are sleeping pills, anything that makes you tired. And then also weed actually is not that good for dreams. So if you're having a hard time recalling them, just try to quit for like a few days, and usually after about 3 days you'll start having super vivid dreams. Sometimes people will have it immediately, like the day after. So just give that a try if you're having trouble with your dreams, because you can find a lot of really cool synchronicities in your dreams as well as waking life. So that's a really great place to start looking.
And yeah, for some people, those particular substances, it's less that they are depressants, but the type of depressant that they are makes it so your brain doesn't enter a certain REM cycle, which is where the dreaming occurs.
So people that level 4, I believe.
Yeah. And especially people that drink, when they stop drinking, they actually usually get a big wave of really intense, vivid dreams. To start lucid dreaming, like if you look at a clock, turn away and look at it again when you're awake, and just get into the habit of doing a check like that, like
awareness
Inception
checks
style. And then you'll start doing it in your dreams.
Signs.
I'm too stupid for that.
Or maps. I always, in my dream, I'm like, where the hell am I? And I look at a map for like 30 minutes and I can't read it. And I'm like, why can't I read?
Oh God. Yeah. Lights never work for me sometimes. But yeah, my thing was I would look at written words and look away and look back. So the first lucid dream I had was at a gas station, and there was a sign on the wall that was like, no smoking because you'll blow the place up. And I turned away and I looked back, and like the words would change, but the meaning of the sign didn't change. And I spent that entire dream just looking away and looking back to see how many ways I could say that. And I thought it was hilarious.
I get so mad when I can't read a map in my dream. It's so funny.
For me, it's the lights. I'm like, why won't this light turn on? And I spend the whole dream trying to turn a light on.
And what that tells me about myself too is that I like to know where I am at any given time. So the sensation of disorientation is something that annoys the shit out of me. I should try this journaling.
See, I usually remember my dreams, but yeah.
I don't remember my dreams particularly well, but when I do, they tend to be prophetic or just traumatizing. I go through periods where my dreams are prophetic, and then I have periods where I don't dream a lot. And I have noticed because of journaling that I do dream more and have deeper, more meaningful dreams when the moon is in Pisces, and I can remember them better.
Ah, cool.
Oh. Interesting. Yeah, it's funny you're like put the date and the zodiac and stuff down. Makes me think of the advice my mother gave me when I started freelancing. So I'm a field technician. She's like, you got to keep a journal and put down the date. She's like, but put down things like the weather and how you feel. I'm like, I'm working inside on computers. And she's like, it's relevant though. Like they used to put in traffic signals. And she's like, sometimes John would go back and be like, oh, it rained that day. That's why that pipe's all messed up. So,
wow,
yeah.
That's intelligent as fuck.
Yeah, so I like that your first advice was that same advice. I'm like, this is good advice.
That's number one. And I feel like I have to say that as a magic person is like I'm doing a disservice because even though I'm bad at it, it's the first piece of advice. But the second one, now I get to take some creative liberty because here we go. Use your feelings. Use your intuition. Like if you have a feeling one day where you're like, I feel like I just feel like I should just go to Nevada and do this thing. Maybe just go do it. And there's smaller examples. You don't have to just like leave do a 100-mile trip or something. But if you get a tiny feeling, like a sensation that like maybe you should you get a curious feeling, follow it and see where it leads you.
Yeah, a lot of people get stuck in a cognitive loop of questioning it or trying to put it off or
no, you have to go for it.
Exactly. That's the only way intuition truly works is in the moment. So you got to stay in the now moment and just flow with it.
Yeah, I'd definitely say for me, the weirder the thought is, that's the signal for me that's the one I need to do. Not keep a check in there to make sure it's not just a dangerous thing, but like
a nonsensical thing. Like, why would I do that right now? But okay.
Yeah, I don't even like that soda. Why would I go buy one? It's like, go buy one. I'm like, whatever, brain. And then, then adventure.
It might get you into trouble, and it sounds a little new agey, but if your intuition, if your gut feeling says yes, like that feels right, you go for it. It'll lead you somewhere very interesting
or important for your growth. I'd say it's to lead you.
Okay, beyond this point, I want to acknowledge the fact that all sources of information are a bit biased, and so the information we're giving you is biased by our experience and is tainted by our experience and is going to be from our point of view. So if that hasn't occurred to you by now, well, now you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about it earlier when we started putting together stuff for this episode. How did I get into magic? Like so I could bring that to the table. And I'm starting to think I always really wanted a teacher, but now I feel like I had the benefit of not having a teacher.
Same.
Because I had to figure everything out. Yeah. And you don't realize what limitations are there because you don't know. And sometimes that means you just go right past them. And other people that had teachers are like, what? Like, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to stop there. Oops.
And I think the best teacher really is having the experience distilled within your own experience and having that to draw upon and compare to other people's works or experiences. So a lot of times when I first started out, I would start from like one end of the spectrum all the way to the other and just study all these different types of magic or ways to practice And then whichever one I felt like an intuition to try, then I would try those, or I would delve more into it that way. But I did want a teacher too. But, you know, teachers should drop grains of information that stimulate your curiosity to actually go and have that experience or learn it yourself. They should be more of a guide and not necessarily like giving you a book and homework to do and stuff like that.
Yes, I agree and feel like your intuition leads you to the right place to study. There's a phenomena called the library fairy, where sometimes you walk into the library and you walk straight to the book that you need. Maybe not the one you were looking for, but the one you need.
And also keep in mind that just random everyday people or acquaintances or even friends and family who aren't even doing magic, aren't even aware of it, can also be mentors in a way.
Yes.
But, you know, you have to understand what the process of getting that information from somebody entails, especially if they're not practicing, but you can learn things from other people. So always be aware of if you can learn from somebody.
Well, yeah, for me, my mom's the one that taught me how to pay attention to my intuition. But she's like the most Christian lady ever. So she sure didn't say, you can use that for magic. But she's like, that voice inside of you, always listen to it. I was like, all right, Mom, check.
Yeah, and prayer taught me how to meditate in a certain way. So they're all kind of interrelated. It's just, you got to use your creativity.
I was just going to say Christian prayers, but let me know that there were other things out there that I could call upon and talk to and like commune with.
Ooh, I do have that as one. Before we get off of intuition and learning from interesting places, I don't really have a place for this in the notes, but I do need to mention it. Part of following your intuition and doing what feels right is understanding that we live in a culture that is anathema to the idea of spirit in so many ways. We live in a materialist society that measures things meticulously, is empirical, and it believes in measuring results and is intensely rational, right? And when you're dealing with things of the soul and of the spirit, there's a certain element, specifically water, I suppose, that aids in the alchemical process. Falling in love with what you're into is a big part of it, at least for me. And I believe that the things that speak deepest to us, especially through fiction, are things that we should be safe and be allowed to work with as magicians. This is where I'm like a full-on chaos magician, where I think it's perfectly good and acceptable that if you just feel Pokemon so deep in your soul and you just can't get it out, I encourage you to really dig into that and be like, I want you to look at all your Pokemon, especially your favorite ones, and like figure out their name gematria, figure out what elements they are, you know, like get into it and go out and role play and like become the superhero that you want to be. Put your own spin on it. And because and then when you need to blah, 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 I think you should really look at the people that you're into, like the heroes you're into and the characters you're into, and try and find where they've been represented in mythology, because they probably have been. And your feelings about them are very much like the feelings that the ancients had about their gods. And some Indian people feel about Krishna, and like they're like superheroes. It just depends what culture you've come up in.
Yeah, they're like subsects of archetypes. Everything is.
Like, I think in India, you can go and buy a comic book with like Krishna, fighting and stuff. Like,
cool.
I don't mean to just be like, oh, like saying something all off.
Have you guys ever seen the little cartoon Super Science Friends? Because I think they end up battling Krishna at one point. Like a clone team of like Einstein and Tesla and all of them. And they start fighting Krishna at one point. It's pretty great. I think that's the finale.
Sounds crazy.
Luke, what you said is, I'd never thought about it that specifically, but kind of how I got into things. Like when I first started studying magic, it was mostly just dumping encyclopedias into my head because I like that.
Right.
But when I started getting ready to practice, like Alice in Wonderland has been my like touchstone for how I feel about the whole world since I was little. And then I think that translated into me liking trickster gods and such things. Mercury ability to travel.
Yeah, this is the reason I enjoy spiritual study so much more than just material study, is because you have to use creativity to come to different solutions, and you can also build your own systems, which I think is really probably the best way to go about it. The only problem is it takes a long time. Like Lights was saying, you have to research everything first so you know what the heck you're doing, and then take elements from each different thing to assemble what a ritual or whatever you're going to do. But I enjoy how creative and fun it's like hands-on learning where you get to actually get involved and make something and test it.
The science part of it.
Yeah, it's so fun. Yeah. And I'm a scientist at heart too. So
same. Yeah. I when I put like chaos scientist, that's my new title.
Oh my God, mine.
We can all share it. But for me, like Mari said, the dumping in of the encyclopedia also helped me in, I don't know about you guys, but I grew up with not a lot of money and resources. So having the like encyclopedia in my head, I could say, well, it says I need this to accomplish this goal. I don't have that. I will not be able to get that. What else can I use instead? And I have the list. Yeah.
It's like cooking.
Yeah.
One time at my altar, I prayed to Doctor Who, and the next day, my friend showed up. He worked at the Salvation Army with 3 functioning sonic screwdriver toys and just gave them to me.
What? Tribute.
It just works. I don't know what to say. Like, it's real. Like,
yeah.
The unreal is real to me.
Same.
Oh my God. My last altar I had set up in like last year was the last time I had a proper altar, but I had Discord from My Little Pony on a throne on it.
Oh, I love Discord.
I know, he's so great. He's so funny. But yeah, so I mean, I full on had toys on half my altar because that was what represented it best for me. I think I had a little Burger King like Happy Meal toy of Ed, the goofy hyena from Lion King.
Aw.
Yeah.
So, gotta clear my throat again. One of the very few times I've talked to a dead person, it was in a dream. Mm-hmm. They came to me on the planet of Endor, like at the end of Return of the Jedi. He was with his family and he told me that everything was okay and that he was happy. When I woke up from the dream, I knew why he called his brother Wedge, because my name was Luke, and it was like, oh, Star Wars, because the co-pilot, you know, his friend in the A New Hope, and it like all came together for me. And I was like, okay. So I think what happened was the spirit of this person reached out to me, and the language that it was best suited to using was Star Wars, because it symbolized like the end, but it also symbolized a completion, and it gave me information that only that spirit could know. And it was in a way that would awaken a new understanding in me. So I don't have any guilt about like diving into like pop culture mythologies, as long as you're doing it with care and with like being curious. Like, be like, well, what does this mean? You know, why is C-3PO gold?
As long as your heart is open, I think then that's the most important part. As long as you come at it with an open, you know, and pure heart, and you know, you believe it. I mean, you got to believe it in your whole being. And then, like, where I built my own system based on a vision I had. And then I combined that with some other things that I like my favorite number. I've just always had a favorite number since I was very little, and I don't know why. I have strange relationships with things. So I'll just like conglomerate all together and cobble out some way for me to like set up my altar, and certain ways I, you know, do my rituals and stuff, how I set things up in certain shapes. Or I'm very big into geometry, so I use that a lot.
Oh my goodness. Sammy.
So you can pretty much mix and match whatever speaks to you. And that's the important part, is like while you're studying, if something pops out at you, make note to try it or add it to something. Like,
I think the first thing you're supposed to do in any spell you read ever in a book is cast a circle. And like, I've almost never done that. I tried it a few times when I first started out. I was like, I guess I see the point, but I also just didn't feel like
there's other ways to do it.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I see your point, but like, I think I've got that covered. So I don't do that because I don't need it. I have other things I do.
Okay, well, the third thing I would suggest above any other thing, maybe, except the next thing, would be to meditate. Why meditate? First of all, it brings peace and mind to the body. And 2, is good for focus and performance in general. So if you're a material capitalist skeptic, meditation can help you kick ass at work and deal with your interpersonal relationships better.
And be more creative.
I still would do it. You never know what's going to happen. I started meditating and I finally achieved my goal of having a dream that I was almost an inanimate object. It was a turnip. It was amazing. It's like,
oh yeah. I was going to say, I have a difficult time doing this. So I have all these tips and tricks on how to do it because I suck at meditating. But I do have ADHD. And it's really, really good. It's really, really good for people with ADHD or ADD. or even like on the autism spectrum is very, very, very beneficial. Oh, how do I do it?
Yeah, how do you do it?
Well, I've tried many different things. I've heard someone say that you stare at a candle flame. That's one way some people like that. It hurts my eyes, but it's fun to watch it dance around and stuff. And then you can kind of go into no mind, which is, it's basically a state of mind where you're not thinking. And a lot of people will tell you, oh, put all thoughts out of your head. You know, if you have a thought, let it go. And like that shit never worked for me. Sorry, I'm not going to lie.
I've heard that doesn't.
So I'm a very
really
visual
work.
person. It doesn't, because I'm so visual and my brain won't shut up. So if I tell a thought to go away, I've just said something else. I'm like, thought, go away, and be gone, thought.
And then the follow-up thought, did that thought go away, or is it still here? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so that doesn't help me as much. The candle was kind of cool. And then there's another one where you can mark a point on a wall or like pick a point in the distance. Like I'll stare at tree bark or like grass or leaves, like in the distance, and just zone out. And then that's kind of like expand your awareness to where you start to, your visual field will change actually if you do this enough. And it's really, really interesting to observe. But some people close their eyes to meditate and look at the, you know, you ever see those spots when you close your eyes on your, in the inside of your eyelids or whatever?
That's how I talk to the aliens.
Yeah, that's me too. Anyway, that's a secret, but you can do that. And then I have this other trick, since I'm very visual and I'm very good spatially. Something I once read about is that you can imagine a soccer ball, and as you do your breathing exercises, it spins in one direction, and when you breathe out, it spins the other direction. Or you could imagine a sphere turning with your breath, and then it changes into a cube. And then you can imagine it turning back into a sphere, like while you're with your breath. Tying it to my breathing actually helps me a lot.
That sounds incredibly helpful. I'm going to try that because I am the same, where the spatial and the visual. That sounds amazing.
And there's also hatha yoga, which is breathing exercises, which that helped me meditate because I was so focused on, okay, I'm going to do a deep belly breath. Okay, it's left nostril now. Okay, it's right nostril now. Like, because my body is preoccupied with the practice of the hatha yoga, I could actually go into no mind very easily. And then when I draw or make art, and I'm sure, Luke, when you write or when anybody makes something, a lot of times your flow state would be no mind. But I would encourage, try something basic first, because you don't want to be doing too much activity until you're like able to go in and out like, you know, like a snap.
Here's one really easy, great beginner tip if you want to become a wizard and meditate on easy mode and still be effective. You take your card of the day or whatever esoteric thing you're studying or whatever it is you saw in your dream that night, and then you go over to where you meditate, and what you do is you pick a thing and you sort of hover around that thing. Like if it were an island, you know, you'd be flying over it, and anytime you get a little too far away, you come back to it gently and you just keep circling that one thought or idea, and you start to get revelations or whatever, because you're never really going to get those intrusive thoughts out of your head. And there will come a time where this meditation deepens and you will be able to get to that point, especially if that's your intention, where you do want to silence your thought. And this is an essential tool to use. It even says it in Liber Null. If you're going to get started, you got to either get your thoughts quelled or raise your thoughts and stimulation to the point where it's voided out in the same way. But the goal is the same. So you can either overwhelm it or you could suppress it. But either way, when it comes to meditation, you can just pick a topic and gently come back to what you're trying to as your thoughts. And that helps for a lot of different things. Then I'd say the fourth thing that you should do is, this might be controversial to some, but you need to pray. You got to pray. You got to reach down deep into your wallets. No, okay. You
and join our Patreon.
yeah. Exactly.
That's how you follow intuition. Good one.
Inflame thyself in prayer, Aleister Crowley says. I don't think he was kidding. So we haven't got there yet, but your holy guardian angel is where this comes in, and to keep talking about Crowley and the Hermetic path in general, as he was taught, the first goal of the magician is to seek their holy guardian angel and to make conversation with it. Have a contact. Yes, have contact. And when you have contact, it'll blow your mind and you'll know.
Yeah. Huh?
You'll know. Like, it's basically like God. You're meeting your vision of God completely for realsies, to say it badly.
I would also reckon that it would be considered the image of what your soul would be in godhood.
Sure.
Oh, that makes me feel better about what I was just thinking then. I was going to ask you guys, like, I know Luke's had an experience, but Mari, do you have that, like, epic I met my God kind of experience?
I mean, I have visions of characters or, like, places or things, but, I mean, not really.
What did you ask? I'm sorry. I completely got lost thinking about HGA.
Okay. Well, because, like, Luke, you had your experience, and that was very much like I met my God, and it is everything I thought and more. And like I have had a few experiences here and there that collectively I would say is I met my God, but I also didn't have that like worshiping reverence. I was like, yo, God, you're here too. What are you doing today? It was very like buddy. And I was going to ask if that's just terrible and I should be more reverent.
I feel buddy with God, like, okay. Or whatever universe or whatever it was. I kind of follow more of a Spinoza's God type idea where the entire structure or order of the universe would be what I would pray to. But for me, whenever I do have a moment where I do come in contact with that, it's usually for me all very internal. I don't know if that makes sense. Like I don't see things or, visions of gods or demons or anything like that. It's just like I have an experience inside my body and it feels like God is inside my body. And I know that sounds dirty, but
for me, I think my experience is
like I become it for a minute.
Yeah, my brain just kind of goes to wherever it is we are together, kind of like in the same way when I read a book, like I am there. It's sometimes hard to come back here when people start talking at me if I'm reading. It's just like, whoa, like having to wake up or something. So it's that intense but with God.
But I feel like smashed, like merged up into my higher self. Whenever I make contact or communication, I feel like we're just like fusion like right together as the same entity. Like I don't see an external thing.
Yeah, I do kind of like dip down into myself. Like it's like we, run the autopilot and retreat inside. And that's where the fun meeting is.
And I cry. Every time I cry. I don't know why, but it happens. Like I just pour tears when I have contact.
I think that's your own psychic stuff working. It's some people might call that ectoplasm. Some people might call it ectoplasm.
It's not sad. It's like it's an ecstasy, and it just comes out.
Ectoplasm.
I'm not heaving. I'm not breathing hard. I'm not sniffly. My eyes just water and it just drips down my face. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, like happy. Smiley too. Zombie doesn't understand that everything's okay. He's like, Mom. But I'm like, no, it's fine.
It's not a human kind of crying. Does that make sense?
I had a Christ as my bridegroom, but it was actually female feeling or a sense of femininity to what I experienced. Hot. And I believe if I had to put it in an esoteric pigeonhole, I would say that I saw like an anthropomorphized version of the Sophia. Excuse me. I saw Sophia, which was an anthropomorphization of the Ein Sof. If I had to like intellectualize it, And then after that, I experienced what some people would call an enthusiasmos, where it feels like you've been blessed by this thing. And I didn't have any direct like, okay, so what you said, Mari, like before this experience, I could and I still do have the ability to quote unquote talk to God as you're describing. But then you can always still go to the top of a mountain and be like, what are you? You know what I mean? And
that sounds fun.
But like I feel like I know now kind of thing. That's all.
It's happened so many times, but I don't have any like visuals that pop up every single time. But I know when I've been touched by it.
I have similar.
It's just so hard for me to explain. And like he says, inflame thyself in prayer. Whenever I do make contact, it feels like energy is beaming down into my aura, and that's what's supposed to be happening in the chakra system. Actually, prayer opens up your crown chakra and allows you to absorb cosmic energy, and it builds your aura into a bright white, which is supposed to be a protection or a seal around you. So communing with your holy guardian angel actually improves and heals your aura.
Yes.
Yes.
I learned a lot of things like that from cartoons. Like literally half of my magic knowledge I've just incorporated from seeing something in a cartoon and being like, I think they're onto something, and then doing that.
Oh, 100%, sister.
I mean, there's only so many ways to skin a cat, you know, so you're going to see it everywhere.
Artists channel the other worlds into their art, and the more successful an artist might depend on their ability to do this on demand. Although now we're getting into controversial stuff. Who knows? My holy guardian angel, you just finished the question you asked me. So I had the vision of what I call Sophia. I mean, I called out to Sophia and then it happened. So I assume it was the Sophia. Then, nextly, when I experienced my enthusiasmos, I felt possessed almost of this strangely Gaelic spirit. This is so embarrassing to talk about. And I knew deep down inside it was quote unquote Lucifer. And it's taken me until doing more research to understand why I felt that way. And it's because I had been touched by the spirit of St. Christopher, you could say. I'd been touched by the headless one, or I experienced the experience of the headless one, which perhaps through my own, genetics expressed itself as a fairy king, or the idea of the king of the underworld or the king of the dead. And that's how it came through for me, like unfiltered, just letting myself into it. And even though it's embarrassing, I learned a lot about myself from that experience. And then as my studies have gone on, I can intellectualize it better.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Queen Mab is one of my patron saints or whatever, the queen of the fae. And then she rides corgis around, which is why I'm a corgi. It's stuff that lines up. It lines up with me too much. I don't necessarily worship her, but I pay tribute with my art and talking about her and stuff like that. But I also think that when we do this, Luke, we're channeling from the cosmos or God. You are channeling the same energy, but it comes out in a beautiful, different form for every individual spirit, I think.
I agree, for sure. I don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. Just go for it.
It is making art. That's why art is so beneficial to add to your practice, I believe. Like if you're really new to spirituality, you don't know how to get started, try doing art. Try just doing automatic drawing like we were talking about last episode, or drip painting or anything. And
in the same way as meditating too, even if it doesn't work for your magic, it's definitely going to be good for your soul regardless. So
yeah, it's healthy. And you need to create, if you want to be more like your higher self, it's technically a god, and a god creates,
Accurate. Well, and also,
whoa, bro.
I think...
Whoa, bro. I'm kidding.
That was pretty good.
No, it wasn't.
No, I thought so. But it's like memes. You're able to express, and how we were saying we reference fictional characters in our magic.
Yeah,
it's easier to express yourself in a symbol than in a specific word. A word is so limiting that you're like, well, it's like that, but not exactly. But if you can bring in a meme version of it, you're like, see, and everyone goes, oh, okay,
perfect.
Now, I've heard that writing things down physically helps, and that the practice of just writing your dreams down and physically creating, like you said, with art, helps connect us to that world stronger.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, and it's kind of like the noises and stuff while meditating. I have to give my mind busy work to actually let my soul open up to the universe. Otherwise, it's just too in the way.
Oh, yes, you can use sound. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, I have to. When I first started, I have to do the ohms and not just go say it out loud. I have to think it inside and say it out loud. Like my brain knows that's two different things. And if I only do one or the other, that part of my brain's still like, so what do I do? What do I do?
That's a good technique. Sorry to backtrack, but
yeah.
Also, for the last, if anybody has trouble meditating, binaural beats. So moving on.
Full disclosure, TMI, we took a pee break, but upon returning realized that if we didn't start talking about pitfalls and things to avoid, that Mari was going to accuse me of being a black hat magician.
Or you might fall into it yourself if you're not aware of this.
F up my karma if I didn't tell people some things to avoid getting into magic in the first free section half of the show.
Not saying it's to be avoided at all costs, but you must know what to expect. And if you just straight up avoid these basic rules, if you avoid breaking these basic rules, then you're not going to have to deal with any repercussions that backfiring on you.
Rule number one.
And
don't let them put crystals in your butt.
I thought that was in the Patreon section.
No, don't let them put crystals in your butt. That's the number one thing.
Don't let them charge you.
Especially don't let them charge you for putting crystals in your butt, because they will if they can.
They will.
It is a technique that's valid, but I would recommend doing that on your own or with somebody that you trust.
And if you're going to charge money, get the money first.
Look, rules are meant to be broken, but this is the number one rule. So I'm saying, just keep it in the back of your mind. I'm not saying don't ever put crystals in your butt or don't ever let someone else put crystals in your butt. But as the number one rule, like, give it some forethought if you're gonna, like, circumvent this one. I mean, what did I say? This show's a little biased. Anyway,
maybe just don't start there. Work your way up to it.
Yeah, you know.
I also want to mention consent.
Yeah, consent. I think that's yeah, go for it, Mari.
When you are performing divination or rituals or anything, most likely you're going to be doing them for yourself, I'm guessing, in the beginning. But if you're wanting to practice on somebody or have a friend like read their tarot or do a astrology chart for them or make them a sigil, you're going to definitely want to get their consent first and ask them what their intention is so that you can add it to your spell or your ritual or whatever, or your talisman, and so that it becomes part of their will as well as yours. And it gets kind of dicey if you start putting, this is where hexes and curses come in. Like, you can do them, but there are negative repercussions that you need to be prepared for. And there are certain offerings that you have to make that you have to be aware of, like to protect yourself from the blowback, if that makes sense. Because you can't really affect someone else's will without them knowing about it, without facing some kind of repercussion.
Maybe don't start at curses. Maybe work your way up to it. I wouldn't do it.
I wouldn't either.
Probably. I'm like dirty gray hat at best, but only because they like mischief.
I mean, sometimes it's necessary, but I don't think I would ever do it without somebody explicitly knowing.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely like, it's just respectful. Like, I feel if I have friends and I were to look up their birth chart or something without asking them, it feels like weird and wrong.
I always ask. Yeah, I always ask.
But for readings, I think
what if it's Hitler or something?
Hitler was a person too, buddy.
Sure, but you don't have to like pull out the Ouija board and be like, you can look up somebody's birth chart, right?
Yeah, I think you can look up a person's, but if you're doing it to get to know someone personally or something.
Yeah.
If you're trying to do it to get in their underwear, it's bad, maybe?
No, I had my last mentor, my teacher, I wanted to do his birth chart because I was studying astrology and I was trying to figure out like how to do it. I was like, hey, dude, can I just do your chart like for practice? And he was like really wary about it. And I don't really know why, but it's not up to me. And he eventually let me do it. But he didn't listen to anything I had to. He has some kind of thing where he doesn't want to know. So, but that's the way his magic works, and I have to respect that. So I just kind of did it on my own. But he let me do it. So, you know. Well,
let's just give the proper like warning, like to a really powerful magician. If you give someone your birth chart, they have some sort of influence and power over you potentially. Mm-hmm. They have the potential to do that if they're an experienced magician. So maybe don't give someone your birth chart or tell someone your birthday right away or tell someone how old you are necessarily, unless you really want to like have that connection with them.
Right.
I'm saying part of the reason for consent and stuff, like some people, don't want to know that information and you should respect that. But also the act of pulling up the birth chart and reading the birth chart is putting a specific intent out there into the world in a magical way. And you could create their path for them. And that's without their consent kind of rude.
Exactly. And I think that's what his thing was. He likes to keep things a surprise. Because he's a chaos magician, and like I understand.
That's me. Growing up, I would read my horoscope in the newspaper, but not until the day after. I was like, let's see how you did.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I did read it.
But even you just think of trying to cast a spell on someone in private, that is going to affect both you and that person. Don't think that it won't affect you.
I think so. Is Luke talking? I can't hear him.
I can't either.
You know.
Okay.
Wear a condom. That's kind of important.
What are we talking about?
Anyway.
Oh, wands and cups?
Oh, man.
Is it too much of a transition back? Because we want to finish most of the list for the free section. So number 5, the most important parts for beginners. 5, divinate. So I suggest that if you are a beginner, you pick a system of divination, tarot cards, runes,
I Ching,
birds outside your window.
Can't you read clouds too?
Probably.
Okay. I think the very, very first thing I started with was just a crystal pendulum.
Yeah.
Pendulum.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
You watched the movement.
The I Ching.
Yeah. Well, you ask it, show me yes, show me no. And like, as again, a kid with little resources, it was the first one I could acquire. I couldn't afford a tarot deck, and I definitely didn't have anywhere proper to hide it. And you can make it out of nearly anything that matters.
You can cast bones, and also if you are poor and all you have is like a deck of cards around, you can actually you can use them as tarot cards. You have to modify the way you read them a little bit, but they do work. They just don't have trump cards in them.
The first thing I started with, because I knew that playing cards were the first tarot cards. Mm-hmm. So my card is Queen of Diamonds, apparently.
Oh, neato.
Yeah, I was like, cool, that's what I wanted it to be. But it's based on your birthday, the system I used.
Oh, and you can also do astrology, can't you, to divinate?
What I suggest...
You just read the daily chart.
You could do that. What I suggest is you take your deck of cards, pick one, or a rune, write it in your journal, and then throughout the day meditate on this card and its meaning, and you'll realize that there was a meaning behind that card that will be expressed in your day, and you'll learn something about the energy and the card, or maybe even the letter that's associated with the card if you're into the tarot.
I guess it opens you up to noticing stuff, and it also allows you to follow your intuition a little bit better with more focus.
Divination is my strongest skill magically. Even though it's said that using the tarot for reading the future is really not how it's meant to be used, you can still use what is out there to learn about the cards and why they have those meanings. So those things might not happen in a day. And if they don't, it's probably because you need to look deeper into like what that card means. Usually, like the 7 of Swords can definitely mean like theft, right? It can mean like getting away with something even, but it can also mean you're just like pushing up the wrong creek. It can mean a few different things, and it expresses itself differently depending on what's going on. But that's
like the context of it, right?
Yeah, and like that's where the mystery is like reveals itself, you know? How to divinate effectively in tarot. What I do is I call upon Thoth. I say it in the way the ancient Egyptians said, Tahuti, and I imagine the bird-headed Thoth, and I ask, please help this reading, make it most truthful and accurate. May your invisible hand guide and bless this reading. Aleister Crowley says to call upon the spirit of Hru, which is an Enochian spirit and does the same thing, I think. And
is it? I just thought of Alice in Wonderland again. Who are you?
Sure. And I call upon that too. And the reading is accurate. Stuff can be so accurate that it freaked me out when I first started getting into it. The strengths and weaknesses of it, you're probably going to freak yourself out. You're probably going to like try and apply the meaning you want. You're probably going to use it on things you shouldn't, but you're going to learn a lot in that process. And if you're honest with yourself and keep some records, the secrets will reveal themselves in time. Also, the cards are always right.
They are. But one thing is people are like, well, that didn't happen to me today. I hear that a lot, like when skeptics try divination. It's like, well, that didn't happen. It's like either you're not meditating on it enough and you haven't figured out the reason why it gave you that reading, or now you're trying to read the universe in the now state, right? Do you know like how easy it is for situations and circumstances to flip that and then something completely different happens? Like you were saying, even just reading an astrology chart could like completely change the trajectory or meaning of somebody's, path. It's the same concept. It's like once you read the cards and then you have that knowledge, that also changes your trajectory. So if you like keep that in mind, like, I mean, I've had some readings that don't add up, but if you just go with it, try not to get stuck on it or get too obsessed or like wait for results or anything, because that's going to probably prolong it and it'll eventually fizzle out when you give up waiting on the result. Like you can't just sit around and wait for it to happen. And that's why meditation is important, because you have to like get out of yourself for that info to come back into you. I mean, that's my experience.
Yeah. For me, also, divination really helped me develop my intuition at first.
Yes.
But yeah, the reading it and then being like, well, that didn't happen. I think sometimes reading it, you create your own mental block. You're like, well, that's not possible. And then you just kind of stop it from happening. I think that was always why I would only read my horoscope the day after. I was like, I knew my thoughts could change it. So I just wanted to let it happen and then see how it compared.
Excellent advice if you're not sure about it at first.
Yeah, until I knew that I would not block myself, because my thoughts can be really focused and hard sometimes, so they'll really get in the way of a thing. I studied divination for almost from like 12 to like 25 or so before I even actually started trying to do it in any regular way because of that. And there's a lot of responsibility there I wasn't ready for.
I find it to be like a mirror, and it'll reflect whatever you're thinking of. But if you're working with a higher power and you're asking a question with pure intent, the reflection you get back will give you some sort of wisdom, especially if you ask for it in the form of wisdom. And this leads to the next point, which is study. Because if you're divinating, especially with the tarot, I'm going to keep talking about tarot because that's what I do. You have a body of knowledge that supports you. And that's really what your divination is leading you towards. That's the hook in the fish's mouth that leads to the catfish dinner is you opening up Mystical Kabbalah by Dion Fortune and being like, well, what the heck? What is chesed? What is this? What is this sphere about? Why is it blue? Why is it emanative? What the heck is this about? And like seeing the spreadsheet of information and reading the interesting explanations, and then you read the next sphere and then it expounds on the previous sphere, and by doing that you gain an understanding of the relationships between all the energies, and before you know it you have a little filing cabinet or a network in your head of all these esoteric ideas, and it helps you understand context, especially if you ask in a way you're like, oh, I need some wisdom here, and you're good. Yeah. So studying. Anyway, excuse me. Go ahead. Continue.
Also for context, can't you you usually do card of the day, which is cool. But sometimes if you want context, you'll pull 3 or even 4, depending on how much information you want. And you can look up tarot spreads all you want and stuff. But really, if you have an intention for each card, and you lay it out in a way that kind of visualizes that intention, it usually works for me. I don't usually have to go by books or anything.
I think that's where individual practice becomes important too, because some people have like a certain deck that you have to develop your certain way you want to do with that certain deck. Like I have a fairy one, so mine's full chaos all the time. It's like today, I don't know, pick another card, swirl it around and pick one. I'm like, all right. But
Luke
other people like very laid out and proper ones.
Like Luke doesn't read the inverted cards, which I found that very helpful. So I just look up both meanings.
Oh, you just drop them out?
And I just look up both meanings so that I have a full scope of the idea of why that card's there. I don't necessarily look at the direction, that helped me get over a hump. So thank you for that. But another one, like one of my friends that did this before, he had a deck that he kept in a wooden box wrapped in a silk cloth, and he kept it in order, perfect order every time, and blessed it and cleansed it before he put it away. I am not about that. I can't even do that. I leave mine shuffled.
If that makes more magic for you, or if that's like for very special occasions, that makes sense to me. But sure.
Well, yeah.
I know what you're getting at. Yeah, but I also chaos, I'm not meticulous about mine either. I actually feel like the more stuff I get on it, or like
out of order,
the more places I take it, it just gets more powerful. It just has like its own intelligence to it. It's been everywhere. It's been in all sorts of rivers.
Yeah.
And it's touched so many different hands and been to different Burning Mans and festivals, and who knows? Like it's just been places. It has like its own soul.
And one thing I do too is, since I keep mine out of order, before the divination, I'll ask the person or myself to pick a random number, or I think 2 random numbers, and I'll shuffle the cards, the first number, and then cut it the amount of the second number. So I have like a different way of shuffling my cards because I already keep them out of order. So I think that's important because of the way I keep my cards.
Yeah, I keep mine like that too. And so my version of that is having the fairy deck. If I'm going to read someone, I give them the deck and I go, introduce yourself to everyone. Because it's not like there's no like Ace of Wands or anything. They're all a fairy. So you say hi and introduce yourself and set aside any cards that
that's
just
cool.
spark your interest in any way or anything. Just put them in a pile and I'll look at it before I shuffle it and start back. So like, and when I look through that pile, I'm like, what about this one? What about this one? Because I know them as people. Like I know each person in the deck. So plus they're fairies. They like the attention and they just want to, look at the person and meet them. And then they're like, all right, here's what we got to say. Because I've seen some things come out of my deck that I didn't know were possible. And I'm like, what is going on here? I've never seen this card. I worked with this deck for 10 years before I ever read other people because I feel like there's a lot of responsibility to not messing up someone else's life by telling them a thing.
I feel like,
and you're going.
I feel like go ahead, Mari.
I was going to say, even just picking it up and doing it, even if you don't know what you're doing, and look up the cards as you pull them, get to know them. That's so important. Mm-hmm. That's how I ended up learning, because there's too many cards to remember the name of, but just you pulling it every day in chat on our Discord, that helps me learn. And then when I do it myself, I pretty much go on a deep dive for each card every time I do it. And I have learned a lot by doing that, quickly.
Yeah. Well, and every deck has art. Look at it. What does it invoke in you? How do you feel about it? What do you think? And then read what the card is about is usually what I was doing when I was learning, because it specifically is kind of an art deck. So it was stare at the art. That's why it's here.
Also, when you're studying, it's important to consider context, because your source might be racist, or your source might be an idiot, or your source might not be the be-all, end-all of things worth studying. And it's good to take some time, digest what's being said, consider what it might mean in your life, and just basically have some discernment. I don't know if anyone can teach you discernment, but I'd say just take your time with studying this stuff, and don't be surprised if somewhere down the line, something that you're into turns out to have some toxic elements related to it. There are pockets of Thelema that got super into white power or even Nazism. And then you're going to find pockets of, you're going to find bad apples in every group.
Yeah. And another thing is I was uncomfortable when I first started studying too, because I'm pretty gender nonconforming for a girl, but I thought all of that gender roles and all that was just bullshit when I was a kid. And I thought it was you can be anything you want, and these patterns are not necessarily inherent. Yeah, okay, that's great, little Mari, but once I started studying magic and how much it has to do with very, very visceral, primal symbols, and they don't just go away. And sorry, dude, sex is one of them. Penis and vajayjay is going to be something that happens in magic. So don't get triggered by things that you read, the white power stuff. I'm not a Nazi, but sometimes you have to stomach your way through that and take it with a grain of salt. Don't get angry when you're reading it, and don't be dismissive. Really try to understand where they're coming from, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to agree with that specific practice. And I think that's really important, because that blocked me off for a long, long time.
Just because you're not going to assimilate it doesn't mean you shouldn't know what it is.
To be specific, over somebody I just spoke highly of, is you keep reading Dion Fortune, they get to be like, oh, she thinks the quote unquote dark races all worship Kali, and it's basically what Lovecraft insinuates in his novels, which reveals the same sort of cultural bias and the terror of the unknown and of the primal and of the ancient, the unknowable, and then imposing your own paranoias and fears onto it of the other. So that's going to happen in the occult, even with the best of them. And
try to overcome it for sure.
I've read that Aleister Crowley even changed a few phrases in the Book of the Law that can be construed as rationalist or imperialist or just stupid, however you want to think of it. So use your own judgment and give things another look every now and then,
Because it could be taken at a different angle. You can use your creativity and your own skills to actually integrate it in a way that works for you.
And for me, one way I always dealt with bias was if I found a thing I really liked, then I found other sources on that same thing so I could see what they agreed on and what was different. Because everyone, especially if they're writing a book, is putting their lens on that first. And if you can see other people's lenses and what the common information is, you can start to examine your own lenses.
That's why it's important to study many different sources. Yeah.
But yeah, don't let any source tell you got to do anything any certain way. Mm-hmm. Do it however you want to do it. That's the point. You shouldn't not do the thing because a magic book said you have to have these things to do it. Otherwise you can't.
Or this is the way the order does it, so I have to do it that way.
Yeah.
No.
Sometimes it's cool to look at how 3 different people would do the same spell and go, oh, I see what the common ground is here and where you guys put your own. When you make a spell, it should be personal. So add a thing that gives it meaning to you.
Yeah, because if it doesn't mean anything to you, it's not going to work. Your intention will be borked.
Should we talk about one more pitfall for the free show before we go into the Patreon?
All right.
One more pitfall.
And
Did you have the pitfall? I thought you had the pitfall, Luke.
I don't know.
Are you going to talk about crystals in your butt again?
You want to pick one? Read it out loud, Mari.
No.
Okay.
Where the barrel from Barrel Bunnies comes from. Right in there. No.
Well, this will tempt them to the sex magic part, which is in our Patreons only show.
Be careful who you have sex with, because witch pussy and wizard dick is dangerous. You don't know. You could accidentally make a kid, you know? You just be careful. You never know.
And
use common sense.
And we were talking about
get tested.
That's why you were talking about condoms earlier.
Yeah.
And then that's what you were talking about earlier, following your intuition and like to also be careful when you do that. There's definitely reasons for it. Just because something feels good doesn't mean it feels right. That's something I had to learn really hard.
Well, and that's why for me, learning other people's lenses so I could see mine was important, because sometimes I want to do the same thing, but I'm wanting to do it for a different reason. And sometimes I'm not okay with that reason, so I don't do it.
Or sometimes the things that I know and I feel in my heart is right to do. It feels right to do that is some of the most painful things I've ever had to do. You know?
Yeah,
so it's not always about seeking pleasure. And I think a lot of people get that confused. So, be very, and pleasure and temptation has a lot to do with that.
And get consent.
Yeah. So what you're saying is if it feels good, do it.
Sometimes things that feel right to you don't necessarily feel good to your body or yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like it could be painful. It could be emotionally painful to go through, but it's the right thing to do. Like I've felt the need to curse somebody before, or, destroy their property, or like start a fight, or, but the right thing to do is to hold my head high and be better than that, because I know it's not the right thing to do. My heart was telling me that, so I didn't do it. So you have to, that's what's important. I think the most important thing when you're getting into these rituals and stuff, like when you are casting spells or like putting out intentions. Yeah. Do you want that? But is it the right thing for you? Right? Is it the right thing that will make you grow and make you better or make you more powerful? Because sometimes those things that feel good will actually weaken you. So I'm just putting that out there.
You got to learn to not let your emotions control you, and then you can start to control your emotions. Or don't serve the emotions, let the emotions serve you. It sounds way cooler that way.
Yeah, be a master of it. Like, don't let yourself be run by these like base, desires and stuff, because you can get into a lot of trouble doing that crap. Like a lot of people were like, well, I made a sigil for $1 million and I never got $1 million. It's like, well, you're not doing it right.
I feel like the gods are over on the other side going, yeah, that's all you're going to get your whole life for spreading it out.
Yeah. And you're not, well, they're not ready for it, and even if they do get $1 million, it'll be gone the next day because they didn't have to work for it. They didn't have to think about it or have an intention.
Listen,
so that's what I'm trying to get at.
If you're ready for it and you want to learn how to make $1 million with a sigil, all you have to do is spend $5 right now at www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, and you will get to hear all the extended episodes. I'll send you a 5x5 vinyl bonus sticker of our cover art, gourmet, handmade, luxury, fantastic. I don't know. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's the best thing ever. And yeah, so head on over there.
Really, the shows are best.
Yeah, you know, if you want to hear the rest of the show, head on over there. Thank you, everybody. Eat carrots and shoot lasers.